G'day everyone, welcome back to the channel and my hotel room. Today we are finally going to get into this PolarPro kit and we'll see how good all these lens filters are. As you can see, I've got my Nisi case here with all the kit elements inside of it. Got the main housing there, the two adapter plates I had. And we've got all the filters in here with several unused spots that I could add more to if I wanted. It's taken me a while to get to this point because, quite frankly, I was waiting for some special lakes to help demonstrate these filters with. And I think we found one here, and here's your first clue. Yes, that is a can of bear spray. Why would I need a can of bear spray? Well, let me show you where I am. I am in Banff, or Banff, as you might want to call it. I'd like to call it Banff, because, well, you got two F's, you might as well pronounce them all. Anyhow, there are a bunch of lakes around here, and some of them you can actually see from my hotel room. We'll be out there at some point. I don't know if that'll be today or another day, but I'm here for the next 6 days or so. And I'm staying at the Juniper, if you are wondering where exactly I am with this kind of a view. Last night, I got one heck of an awesome sunset from here. I just stood out on the balcony, set up the D800, set up the Z50. The Z50 got a killer time lapse, which might be in this video, and the D800 just nailed one of the best sunsets I've ever had, and it nailed it with those mountains. So, very happy I is. And I've been shooting pretty much all day so far. I did my live stream from Bankhead earlier today, so that was fun. Killed my legs, killed my lungs, but it was fun. So yeah, we've got a bunch of lakes around here. I'm gonna go out to the Cascade Ponds, probably. Gonna go shooting at Lake Minnewanka, and those there Vermilion lakes. And then in a few days, when my body is feeling up to it, I'm going to go out to Lake Louise, shoot that lake, shoot Lake Agnes, and then probably go up to Bow Lake and Peyto Lake. And hopefully I'll be at those two lakes more than once on this trip, but we'll see how things go. I'm already finding that my itinerary is already pretty crowded considering the physical condition I'm in right now. So anyhow, today I'm just going to do probably Lake Minnewanka with the lens filters. So how about I shut this off and we'll just go out there right now. So here we are, Lake Minnewanka, except we're not here in person. I found that when I got out to the lake that there were just a little too many people around for my liking, so I decided to just forgo recording at any of these lakes and just get all my shots and come home, and then we'll talk about them right now. The idea was I would go out to each lake, take maybe 3 or 4 shots, one with no filter, one with CPL only, one with ND 1000 only, one with CPL and ND. But yeah, I found that after I got past the first 3 lakes that there were certain combinations I was using all the time, so I decided to forget the 3 or 4 shots thingy and just do what I thought was the right combination for the scene for the rest of the trip. So we'll get into these now and start talking about them, and then we'll talk about what's good and what's not so good about these lens filters from PolarPro. First things first, you're looking at an image on your screen right now. This is the base shot at Lake Minnewanka with no filters, 24mm focal length, f5.6, 1/60 seconds.
That's 1/60th of a second. And as you can see, sky's a little bit washed out. There's a little bit of orange on the mountains from the sunset. I've pulled out a few details from the shadows, but for the most part, all of these shots for each location, I've tried to process them identically. So, very minimal differences between them, I hope. We'll see how that goes. And with these shots, I should mention I have not added any saturation, no vibrance, no dehaze, and no clarity, none of that stuff. It's all just basic processing, so we can get the best possible picture we can of how good the Summit filters are and should you buy them or not. So yeah, this was the first one with no filters, so let's go to the next one. Okay, now we've got the ND1000 with the CPL combined. 24mm, 8 seconds, f4. As you can maybe tell, the sky is a little bit less washed out, but the big deal is down here in the water. You can see exactly what an ND filter does for your daytime exposures this way. And I gotta confess, I became real addicted to this look, this sort of matte finish on the water look. It's like this because it's a long exposure. So you saw what the lake actually looked like. There was quite a bit of wind, so what the long exposure did was it evened everything out. So yeah, nice matte finish on the water. But enough about that one. Let's move to the next one. Okay, this is just the ND1000. You can see the sky is a little more washed out again. And the lake is even more matte finish because I went up to 30 seconds on this one. And I went to f8 as well, so still the same focal length. So, I think I only took 3 shots at Lake Minnewanka, so let's see what the next one is. Okay, from here we move on to Bow Falls in the town of Banff itself. Again, we'll start out with no filters. I did a 70mm focal length on this one. I used my Sigma 24-70, just like I did at Lake Minnewanka, only it's at all the way at the other end. It's at 70mm now. So I did this one at f8 and 1/100th of a second. As you can see, there's a lot of busyness in the water here. The lake itself, or the river itself, yeah, lots of reflections, lots of ripples, and same thing with the waterfall. It's like I stopped time there. And up here in the sky, you can see that it's very hazy and washed out again. And I want to clarify something here. The entire time I was there was a lot of wildfire smoke in the sky, so the CPL filter could only do so much with that, and the rest I had to do in software through DAs. So yeah, not ideal lighting conditions the entire time I was there, but I made the most of them, I think. Got some killer sunset shots, and we'll talk about those in a minute or 5 or 8. Anyhow, but right now we're going to move on to the next image. Okay, this is just with the CPL. Went up to f16, 1/13th of a second. And I did that to get a little bit of a longer exposure going here, just to even out the water just a little bit. Bonus points if you spotted the little rainbow over here by the falls. But yeah, as you can see, it's doing a little better job with the sky. That's just from the CPL itself. And we'll move on to the next one because I'm anxious to show you the long exposures. Okay, there you go. ND1000 plus CPL. Now this is where you kind of get into a little bit of a problem with these ND1000 filters and long exposures. Sometimes you don't want that, and I'll use this image to explain why. You see how in the previous image everything was in focus in the background there and in the foreground. And if you see in this shot, it looks like the trees are a little bit less focused and all that, especially in the background. That's because there was wind. And what the ND1000 did was it allowed me a 30-second exposure to smooth out all this water down here. But what it also did was make the trees blurry because they were being blown around in the wind. So you've got to find that balance. You got to figure out just how long exposure you can go without getting into all this blurriness and stuff. And this being a D800 camera, there's a lot of resolution to deal with too, so yeah, can be a little challenging to get the exact right settings here. But we'll go to the next one here. And we are out at Two Jack Lake. This is where it got really challenging for me because I was facing right into the sun. There was glare everywhere. I couldn't see the screen. I couldn't see through the viewfinder. So getting the CPL set up was a little hassle. So this is with no filters at 40 millimeters, f/18, 1/125 of a second. I was trying to go for f/16, but again, you couldn't see a darn thing while I was out there. And as you can see, there's a lot of glare in the water here. A lot of haze in the sky. That's part of the wildfire stuff. So there wasn't much I could do here. So this is with the CPL only. And as you can see, if I flip between the two, it's changed the color cast just a little bit. I have not changed anything about the white balance and processing. This is just how it came out of the camera. So as you can see, there's still a lot of haze in the sky. The CPL couldn't do anything for that. And we've also got a lot of lens flare now that we didn't have in the base shot. This was solely due to the reflections from the light coming in through the filter and then bouncing off my lens and then back onto the filter. You can sort of see down here these little arcs of light in the water. That's a reflection from the camera lens. So yeah, not really ideal at all. In hindsight, the bare lens only was the best option here, but whatever. Now this is with the ND1000 and the CPL, and you can see my settings up top there. Yeah, a little bit better here, but still. And it's a little bit better because the ND1000 has knocked out it's knocked out all those reflections going on from the lens and the CPL bouncing light between them. And it's also knocked down the water reflections a little bit. But yeah, still not ideal. So let's move on. Okay, now we're at Vermilion Lakes. I believe this was the second one. We're looking up at Mount Rundle here. Again, no filters, 48 millimeters, f/3.2, 1/200 seconds. And as you can see, there's a lot going on in the water again. We really have a busy amount of ripples in the water this time. Again, it was kind of windy, so you can see the blades of grass in the foreground. Time has stopped them too, or rather the shutter speed has stopped them in action. But yeah, I wasn't really very happy with this, with the bare lens, so bring on the summits. And here's the CPL only. As you can see, we've got a little more blue in the sky, thanks to the CPL. It's looking a little bit more sunset-y. Again, I haven't altered anything about the saturation or white balance, so you're basically looking at right out of camera goodness here. I might have lifted some of the shadows up again, but that's about it. So let's bring in the ND filters. And there you go. Nice matte look in the water again. I love this look. I'm going to keep using this look, I think. And as you can see, the leaves of grass aren't quite so distinct because it was a long exposure. So, next shot. I decided to try this one with only the ND1000, and this is the result. As you can see, we've lost the blue in the sky a little bit. We do still have some clouds in the background there. And yeah, I just felt that for this location, both the ND1000 and the CPL was the best look here. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't. But anyway, we're back to the start there, so how about we go into some of the other shots I took from Banff. We'll go into Lightroom here. Now, this here is a shot of Lake Minnewanka again, and I'm just gonna do a little bit more processing to this one than we did in the comparison stills. So, what will I do to this one? Well, we'll pull up the exposure just a little bit, knock down the highlights, and I believe this one used both the CPL and the ND1000. At least I believe so. Yep, 24 millimeters, so I hadn't moved to the 14 yet. So we're gonna pull up the shadows just a bit. Let's see, we need a little more in the blacks. I'm going to go in and remove the chromatic aberration and get the lens profile in. And we're going to push up saturation now because we want a little more than we get from the base D800 shots. I'm going to tweak exposure again just a little bit. We're starting to get a nice sunset image here. I'm just tweaking the tone curve now. A little more highlights. A little less whites. A little more darks. A little bit more shadows, and then I'm going to go up back to the main exposure thing, and I'm going to push the blacks down a little bit. There we go. Yeah, that's looking good to me. Right about there. And we can see a little bit of dust spots in the lens there. We'll get rid of those. Okay, there we go. I am real happy with this shot. And I gotta do another disclaimer here. Yes, there is a grad filter in the Summit kit. No, I didn't use it. Reason I didn't use it is because we've got all these mountain peaks and valleys going on here. With a grad filter, I tend to prefer a much more level horizon than we have going on here. So I really didn't use the grad filter that much while I was out there. Might have tried it once, but I can't remember which shot I tried it for, so yeah, that's looking like a good sunset shot. Let's find some others. What I want to do is I want to go back to Vermilion Lakes and show you the final sunset image I had going on there, if I can find them. Let's see if I can find the one I want. Okay, here we go. This is a process shot already. Tried to make it look as good as I could. I'm not quite happy with the pink tinting I've got in the sky here, but again, this is CPL plus ND1000. So this is about when I decided that CPL and ND1000 was the way I wanted to go for every sunset shot out there. And sunrise too, but I didn't really catch too many sunrises. Let's see if we can get rid of this tint a little bit. That's looking better, but not perfect. Alright, that's about right there. Maybe, I don't know. It's good enough for now. Anyway, let's go find another one. I did go out to Lake Louise with these filters, so we're going to look at those shots now. If I can find them here. Okay, this is going to illustrate another potential issue with these filters that you got to watch out for. This is a 14mm shot at Lake Louise. As you can see, it was before dawn, so I got a lot of stars in the shot, which is nice. Haven't really seen too many shots from Lake Louise that look like this, so I am quite happy with this. I'll just process this one a little bit here. I realize you can't see what I'm doing, my apologies. But this isn't really about Lightroom, it's about talking about these filters. So, the point I wanted to make here was, you see this reflection in the water, see how crisp it is? You gotta watch that, because even though the lake seemed calm, it still had a little bit of movement in it. And when I decided to use the PolarPro stuff on this lake, and I did a long exposure, if I can find it here. I think this is one of them. Yeah. As you can see here, down on the water, with a 30-second exposure, now we don't have such a crisp reflection anymore. So that's what you got to watch out for, again, on the long exposures, is maybe you want that crisp reflection. Maybe you don't. So in this case, I would probably use just the CPL only, because the sky was really, really washed out. Part of that was wildfire smoke, and part of that was just, it just got glaringly bright immediately once the sun came up. See if I can find another shot here. See, yeah, this one was bleh, can't talk again. This is with the 14mm, and I can't use any of these filters on the 14, so yeah, you can see just how washed out the sky is. Even if I drop the exposure, there's just no blue up there. So yeah, that's why I wanted to try and use that Summit CPL here. And the CPL only is fine. It's just once you get to the ND1000s, you start having a problem, because all of a sudden you lose that crisp reflection, and you kind of want that at Lake Louise. Okay, let's move on. I used the Summit kit before I went to, well, actually that was another day. Never mind. Okay, what's next in the timeline here? Oh, I gotta show you this shot. This is Mirror Lake on the Lake Agnes Trail. And I'm sorry to say I did not bring any of the Summit stuff up to this lake, because I realized that once I got to this point, the more weight I had in the backpack, the worse I was going to feel. So I left not only the Summit filters back in the car, I left my giant Sigma 24 to 70 back in the car. So the only lens that went up here on the D800 was the 14mm. So yeah, I would love to get this shot with a CPL, but as it turns out, and as you can see, I didn't need it. I was above the smoke line here, so things turned out real good. But yeah, unfortunately I didn't get Lake Agnes at all. It was just Lake Louise that got the Summit kit. Okay, so let's move on here. Okay, we'll go to Marantz Curve next. If I can find the shots for that. Okay. As you can see, it got extremely smoky on this occasion. Can barely see the mountains at all. I tried the CPL and it didn't really do much for me. But yeah, this is a out of the camera, no filters shot. As you can see, we've got the train here in the foreground. And let's see if I can pull in some dehaze. And yeah, that's the control maxed out. And we've got a little more detail back in the mountains, but there was so much smoke that you couldn't really compensate for it. But what could you do? Why, you could make the train look like a wall, you could. That's exactly what I did here. I used the Summit ND1000 with the CPL. Obviously it didn't do too much good for anything, and as you can see, there's a lot of lens, or a lot of dust on my lens again. Actually, no, that might be on the sensor itself. Gotta clean the D800 again, I guess. Anyhow, that's that. From there, I went to Emerald Lake. And once again, I used the Summit kit. And I'll just show you one shot from there, because this was a hassle. This is again with the Summit ND1000 and the CPL. And the reason this was a hassle was because I had to stand directly in the lake to get this shot. Thankfully, my hiking boots are waterproof, so that saved my bacon on that one. But yeah, I had to walk through the lake to get out here. I had to sort of get at my gear with my backpack still on me. Fortunately, you can do that with the Mindshift Backlight Elite, and yeah, tough shot to get, but worth it, I gotta say. I want to get this shot in winter at some point, but I don't know when that's going to be. Okay, moving on. Let's go to Peyto Lake next. First, I'm going to get the show-off shot here. Yeah, that's the sunset I got at Peyto Lake. Unbelievable. I've been wanting to come to this lake forever, and to get this kind of a shot immediately the first time I'm there, happy as I. And this was shot with a 14mm too, so very helpful. Actually, you know what? I don't think I even used the Summit kit here at all. So maybe we should just move on from this location. From here, I went back to Lake Louise, and I did a long exposure. Or no, this isn't Lake Louise, this is Bow Lake. Yeah, I wanted to get out to Bow Lake as well to do some long exposures, and as you can see, we had the Milky Way. So what I did was I turned the camera sideways, and I got a bunch of these with the 14. I realize this isn't part of talking about the Summit kit, but look at all those stars. Gotta love it. I'm just doing quick and dirty simple processing here because there needs to be a lot more processing to this kind of a shot than I've got going on here, because this was extremely high ISO. I had the D800 at 6400 for this shot, so yeah. I cannot wait to do some stacking with this shot, because look at those stars. The Milky Way is extra special here in Saskatchewan, but in the mountains, good gravy is it awesome. So yeah, I'll work on those another time. I'm probably wasting too much of your time right now. Unless you'd like to see another shot like that, in which case I went back to Lake Louise and got this. So, yeah. Milky Way lined up perfectly there too, and I can't wait to process those. But yeah, moving on. I went back to the Vermilion Lakes at some point. Let's see if this is the right one. That's a 3-second still, so that is not using the Summit filter kit. Here we go, 15 seconds. This used the Summit filter kit. I believe this was sunset from lake number 3, Vermilion Lake number 3. That's Mount Rundle there. That's Sulphur Mountain there. So Banff would be right down in there. If you can see my magnifier moving. If not, there you go. That's where Banff is. Yeah. I don't know if I actually used the CPL on this shot or not, because I didn't really need it. You can see a little splash of color out by Mount Rundle, but that's about it for sunset colors here. I was actually kind of disappointed at the time, but right now I'm looking at it and I'm not thinking it's too bad here. As you can see, the water was moving a little bit, so the mountain reflections aren't quite so distinct. Let me see if I can find a shot where they are, just for comparison's sake. Yeah, there you go. That's from a few minutes earlier. So yeah, we wouldn't have gotten the real crisp reflections anyway, because the water wasn't still, but yeah, I'm definitely very happy with the Summit filters here. Let's see, did I do any other shots? Let's see, this one may have been using the Summit stuff. This was the last morning I was there. I did a series of shots at daybreak, hoping to get a nice sunset, $1 million sunset before I left. And this is basically what I got. It would snow later that day, which I was kind of miffed about because I would have really loved to get mountain scenery with the snow. But we can do that another time and on another trip. So yeah, I definitely used the Summit kit here to slow down the shutter, but I don't know if I used the CPL or not. So we're just going to leave it on this screen and talk about what I like and what I don't like about the Summit kit. Well, what I like about it is the filter quality is top-notch. I am extremely happy with the quality of the glass they used and the quality of the filters. And the system itself is quite versatile. But that leads me into my main dislike. My main dislike is it's a real hassle to use these filters if you're in a hurry. Like, you gotta get the main filter housing out of the bag, you gotta attach the filter plate to the lens, and you gotta attach the filter housing to the lens plate, and then you gotta figure out what filters you gotta use, and put those in, and dial them in properly, and that takes some time. Sometimes all you want to do is just whip a CPL out of your bag and just throw it on the lens and get your shot. And you can't really do that too well with the Summit kit. So, yeah, I'm probably going to order another CPL just for that 28-70 and any future lenses I might get. Just so I have something I can throw on quickly and easily, because I gotta tell you, some of these shots I didn't want to get that filter kit out for, but I did anyway because obviously we had to make this video. But yeah, the other downside I can only think about mentioning is the price. At about $900, $800, it's a lot of money to throw out. And if you've already got some filters like this, like you've got a Lee system, obviously this doesn't make any sense. But if you're just building things up from scratch, then yeah, go ahead and get the Summit filters, because they're awesome. Just be prepared to expect just a little bit of a hassle dealing with them. So yeah, I guess this will conclude my exploration, perspiration, cavitation, I don't know. This will conclude my thingy about the Summit filter kit. I hope I've helped you decide whether or not you want to get this kit or not, but as far as I'm concerned right now, I'm glad I got it. I just need a little more functionality than I can get with the kit right now as it stands. I just need one CPL I can throw on the lens in a hurry, and I'm good. Now, what's coming up next on the channel? I think we gotta get out there and we gotta get that Lite Plus back in the air, and we'll see if that actually works or not, because that thing has been sitting here ever since it got back from RMA, and that was over a month ago, and I still don't know if the darn thing works, so I guess that'll be next week's video. For now, take care, and I'm going to show you some more driving footage from my trip now.